You know that crazy ex who had mood swings and brought your reality into a constant roller coaster of battered emotions and bouts of joy? That's how I feel with Star Trek Picard so far. And here we are, 4 episodes in. Now, I began impressed with the show on the first episode, only to see it dive into schlock during episodes 2 and 3. Furthermore, I felt super stupid for liking it with the likes of Doomcock, Red Letter Media, and other YouTube pundits who totally ripped a hole in the logic, the narrative framework of Star Trek Picard in relationship to its predecessor, Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, don't get me wrong. Episode 4 was full of stupid little things and had moments of genuine corniness. But it did ultimately present an interesting portrait of Jean-Luc Picard as an ambassador in distress at the behold of a covertly usurped Federation. It also had fantastic acting, but, it's going to be bogged down by some Kurtzman level hit or miss dialogue and totally spotty plot logic. Now, I love the cinematography for this series. I know a lot of people aren't on board with the JJ version of the visual look of this film. I, however, have been a fan since its inception in Star Trek 2009. The Dutch angles in this series, the lens flares, all the dolly and crane shots. I think all of this is just fantastic cinematography and really does lend credit to this high budget television series that gives it a cinematic look, as opposed to the often static single shot framing in The Next Generation. So I appreciate it. And I think it's something they should continue with forward, because in the modern world, 2020, you've got to have something better than what was done in the 80s. Now, I'd like to preface this review and breakdown with one simple observation I've made myself. And it seems to me that it's very fashionable right now to hate on our largest franchises, be it Star Wars, Star Trek, or in the rare cases of the MCU, Captain Marvel, or anything that has to do with the slightest hint of woke culture and feminism. And often this is done to great acclaim with very probable cause. Don't get me wrong, I'm often on board with these causes. However, I do find it beneficial to remove oneself from the herd of mob mentality online, and then to furthermore remove oneself from personal, non-contributing expectations of any franchise, and to take into account the perspective of a production crew and their work and also their opinions on the subject. I complained about the, quote, slow pace of Picard getting into space, and don't get me wrong, it did feel that way and it does feel that way. But conversely, if I were to go on a tangent about the opposite situation in which if they send Picard into space too quickly, I'd be right in lockstep with the rest of the internet hating on that. Similar to how everyone said, oh, well, Rey's a Mary Sue and she got her powers so quick. Well, okay, all right. Well, now they're doing the opposite. They're taking their time. They're building the narrative out. Like, let's just hang in there and see, what the outcome is before really jumping to this critical mass of just complete disdain for what we're seeing. And like I said, don't get me wrong, there are so many narrative and sci-fi tropes that are just mind-bogglingly bad, but I want to give them a pass in the larger framework of seeing what they're doing here. And I want to show more appreciation for what they're doing and then give constructive criticism to the series, because honestly, reading and listening to all these commentators on Twitter and YouTube is quite mentally exhausting. And I think we need to have somebody stand up and be a voice for positivity and constructive criticism. So, thus is the impetus of my refrain from reviewing individual episodes of Picard until the actual narrative has been allowed to play out and breathe. However, I'm pleased to say with episode 4, I think we're back in form, guys. I really, really enjoyed this episode. Don't get me wrong, there were moments that were definitely cringeworthy, because it was so sappy or campy, or there were some narrative like leaps or just plot holes in logic. But on the whole, I think episode 4 of Picard really, if what we've seen of Picard so far was a metaphorical shield of crap, episode 4 had some chinks in that shield of crappy armor, and the essence of Star Trek The Next Generation was able to shine through to brilliant excellence. I may be speaking personally, or perhaps in conjunction on behalf with a considerable portion of Trek fans wanting Picard to be TNG The Next Generation 2.0.
Captain.
No, I must. As a matter of fact, be getting back to the bridge.
We are exploring the unknown.
Captain, perhaps I should remain and further entertain our guest. No.
Now, if this were honestly the case, guys, like, let's think about this. Have a thought experiment. If we had The Next Generation 2.0, basically a frame-for-frame reboot with some minor alterations, you know the internet would probably bash this for being a complete, total rehash or nostalgia-laden fan service facsimile of The Next Generation. The truth of the matter is this. The Next Generation was lightning in a bottle, and attempting to recapture it is almost surely a fool's errand. The best way forward is with a new story that pays homage to the past stories and lets its spirit shine through in a new way through a new story, at least initially, before coming to a conclusion that slowly winds down with Picard in that familiar TNG setting that we yearn for, before once again culminating into a finale worthy of All Good Things. I think that's the best way to go about it. Let's start off with something new. Let's let it play out. Let's see Picard land in a familiar place. And then let's kind of, lean into that familiar place for a little while, because this is the last time we're going to see it, guys. And then finally bring it to a close with an all-out banger like All Good Things. So first off, guys, let us rejoice in the very fact that we are bearing witness to a series centered around the greatest Starfleet captain of all time. At least right now, we're getting to see our favorite character back again before his eventual untimely death. Let's be real about this. This is totally an opportunity Star Wars stupidly missed by keeping the original trilogy cast separate from each other. And when news of the project broke out for Picard, our thoughts as a collective were, wow, this is a surprise to be sure. Hello there. We didn't do our usual shtick of getting swept up in the whirlwind of judging this series preemptively. We had a lot of hope. And guys, don't get me wrong. I was judging this series preemptively in episodes 2 and 3, and it's only in episode 4 when I'm seeing this shining light at the end of the tunnel that I had to remind myself to take pause and really collect my thoughts. And I wanted to share this thought process with you. You know what? If I may say so myself, guys, episode 5, did you see that preview? It was totally reminiscent of an original series or Next Generation level of camp. And why not? I welcome this as a one-off, okay? Just as a one-off. Tonality, of course, is going to be an issue because this is going to be campy, it seems like. Kind of funny, quirky, monster of the week episode kind of entry. But you know what? If Taika Waititi can pull it off with juxtaposing serious, dramatic content with comedy, then I'm sure it's not impossible. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, the writing staff, the production crew of Picard, that they will be able to pull this off. Guys, we got our first space battle. Oh shit, son, did you see this? I thought it was tactically reminiscent of The Next Generation. You had a couple of starships engaging in battle with each other with single shot laser beams. And it wasn't like an onslaught of a swarm of robots shooting out of a ship and then decimating one ship and just having a visual onslaught of CGI vomit on the screens that's reminiscent of the prequels in Star Wars or Rise of Skywalker. No, like this was concentrated. It was tactical. It was Star Trek. And I absolutely loved it. And I want to see more. So if we can be real, guys, The Next Generation Season 1 and Season 2, it kind of sucked, except for its few gems. And if you think about it, would The Next Generation be able to survive today with a harshly critical climate of instant gratification? I mean, sure, in my perfect reality, Picard would be a bombastic tour de force off the bat like some rare, and I mean rare, intellectual properties can pull off at launch. But guys, this is the exception and is definitely not the standard. So expecting that, honestly, is setting yourself up for failure. Now, while Picard isn't my hot, wet American dream of a fantasy at the moment, I do feel that the show has learned from Discovery and is objectively off to a better start and only on a path to improve with time. All right, so guys, can we talk about then decapitations and the fights in this episode? Because man, the sense of urgency and tension was so real, so gritty. Yes, 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 Queen. This was my biggest complaint about The Next Generation, was that it lacked the realities of life. I mean, imagining witnessing the horrors and the gravity of the dangers of being in space and seeing that in dramatic visual effect in real life, that was never conveyed properly in The Next Generation. I'll give you a perfect example. Look at Discovery with the spore drive fatalities. Like, a lot of people critique that and saying, what is this, like a horror movie like Saw? But I'm like, yo, like, do you just think if we were actually like a spacefaring species that we would just jump from point A to point B, point A being a level 0 civilization to a intergalactic star traveling civilization in one fell swoop? Or would we fall and make a lot of mistakes in the way? Like, of course, I want to see the realities of space travel, you know? Now, Picard doesn't and definitely should not focus largely on these themes, but I think ignoring them in our modern world for entertainment is a complete disservice to the realism, and I find its inclusion to be most welcome. And especially in this modern context when we're used to shows like The Expanse. All right, guys, so let's just talk about that ending. Like, wow, that ending was a fantastic cliffhanger. It served as a narratively coherent cliffhanger while also simultaneously being a little bit of fan service too, because wow, 7 of 9 is back. And you know what? I'm going to bring this back around full circle to my initial point in this review. And that has to do with preemptively judging the series because, like you, I was judging, seeing, okay, we're in episode 3 now. And I've seen 7 of 9 in the trailers, but she was on the Chateau Picard. So, God, this so sucks. Like, how long are we going to be on Earth? Are we going to keep going back there? Yada, yada, yada. But you know what? It wasn't contrived for a practical set budget or an in-universe convenience having them back at his estate. The reason why she was presumably at his estate is because she was on his holodeck, which is located on his quarters on the starship that we are watching him on board for this mission. So I want to give a little bit of reference here again that one person in particular, if you guys are subscribed to Robert Meyer Burnett's channel, The Burnetwork, you know we have a fantastic group of community movie fans there. And we have so many great discussions. This brings to mind to me, though, with one particular member, Ian Samuels, who was pretty vocally persistent about professing his love for Picard. And, you know, like a jackass, I was kind of like replying back like, ugh, bro, like really seriously? Ugh, Kurtzman sucks. Ugh, this, that, and the other. Totally nagging, you know? While also still, of course, appreciating his perspective, but nonetheless, definitely shitting on it as well. And so, you know, I challenged him in that chat and preemptively and foolishly. And I'm glad to have a retrospective reflection here on this, and I'm hoping to impart this a little bit of knowledge, or perhaps at least an opportunity to reassess your thoughts. And let's not so fervently go to mob mentality in regards to shutting down Star Trek Picard. Give it a chance. I think episode 4 does show that this series has some merits. It is finding its footing, and like its predecessor, The Next Generation, it really did not get a strong footing until its second season, guys. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching my review on Star Trek Picard Episode 4. We're going to come back probably for a mid-season review. That's going to be Episode 5. And maybe I'll decide upon that point whether or not I'll be reviewing each consecutive episode up until the 10th episode. So we shall see. But hey, guys, make sure to like this video if you like the content. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help us, and it helps me understand that, hey, you like this content and you like me. So love it. And remember, every weekend we do our movie news broadcast. It's called Weekly Weekender. It's Saturdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come in the live chat, talk with me. We'll talk about the 10 biggest topics in Hollywood. And of course, in the live chat, I'll be taking your questions and speaking with you live on air. It's my absolute favorite thing to do on this channel and in general. So let's get it done, guys. You have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you this Saturday.